evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Waukesha Town Board meeting, May 14, 2015, beginning at 7:07. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the roll call.
Supervisor Durr?
Here.
Supervisor Fisher?
Here.
Chairman Merrick?
Present.
Supervisor Radke?
Here.
Supervisor Wolf?
Here. And Madam Clerk, have we met all of the rules of the open meetings law?
Yes, we have.
And we can begin with citizens' comments. Anybody? Seeing none, we can move on to the approval of the minutes of April 23rd, 2015. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes from April 23rd, 2015.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. If there's no objection, I'd like to move on to item 8 in order to get Attorney Riffle on his way. Seeing no objections. Number 8, new business discussion and possible action on the following. Announcement of closed session. You are hereby notified that the Town Board of the Town of Waukesha will convene and may, upon duly made motions seconded and acted upon by roll call vote as required under Wisconsin Stats 1985 sub 1 sub C and Wisconsin Stats 1985 sub 1 sub G, go into closed session during the course of the meeting. The Town Board members may attend the closed session. The purpose of the closed session will be as follows. 1, specifically regarding the position of Deputy Clerk Treasurer in the Town of Brookfield Incorporation. And B, reconvene into open session to discuss and take action relating to the subject of the closed meeting discussions or to conduct other noticed agenda matters. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Durr?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Merrick?
Aye.
Supervisor Radke?
Aye.
Supervisor Wolf?
Aye.
And we are back in open session at 7:32. And moving on to 6, Plan Commission items. Discussion A, discussion and possible action. Owners J&N Properties, applicant is Michael Bell, complete towing. Location is West 241, South 3975, Rockwood Circle. Tax key number WAKT 1381 999008. The recommendation from the Plan Commission was to approve as per the recommendations of the planner with 2 exceptions.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Plan Commission's recommendations for J&N Properties.
And a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And B, discussion and possible action on text zoning code changes. Petitioner is Fred Lathers LLC, property address 789 North Water Street, Suite 200. Subsection 13-2-5, site regulations. Subsection 13-3-1, establishment of districts. And section 13-2-9, conditional uses. And I will turn the meeting over to Brian Fisher.
Okay, this is ordinance number 2015-02. This is the subject of the public hearing at the first meeting in April. Also the subject of discussion at the Plan Commission that evening. They tabled the matter. I believe the town board did table this matter as well, and in order to move forward with this and discuss it tonight, we need a motion and a second to remove this from the table.
I'll make the motion to remove it from the table.
I'll second that.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving this ahead fairly quickly, if we can, I believe all members of the town board were present during the Plan Commission discussion of this tonight. I guess I'll leave it to Planner Rabarczyk. Is it necessary for him to repeat that in any measure, what or not, or does everybody understand what it is? You do have the document in front of you. Unless you think it's necessary for him to repeat that, I guess we just open it up to any questions or comments that you might have on ordinance number 2015-02 as it's presented in written form to you.
I'd just like to make the comment that the way it's been revised, that any properties that are contiguous to an incorporated municipality has up to 15 dwelling units per acre, and if it's entirely in the town and not contiguous, it's only a maximum of 8 units, and I would fully support that.
Question, I don't know if this is to Jamie or the town board. How do we supply 8 units per building on septic? Because if it's not contiguous, even if you're contiguous to the city of Waukesha, town of Brookfield, city of Brookfield, if you're in the town and you're going to put 15 units per acre with city water and sewer, how are we going to get that and keep it in the town? I don't know if that's a question to you, Jamie, or...
Well, the way that the language reads is that whether it's 15 units or 8 units, both require municipal sewer and water. So the 8 units per acre would not be on septic and well, it would also be on sewer and water. And that would be negotiation for the developer to work with the incorporated area to keep the land in the town, but still require sewer and water. And it could also be the town of Brookfield. It doesn't necessarily have to be city of Waukesha. Town of Brookfield could potentially provide sewer and water to properties within our boundaries that would allow the density.
Did it answer your question?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Take your time, but if anybody's prepared to act on this, a motion would be in order.
I'll make the motion that we approve the Plan Commission's recommendations for the Fred Lathers LLC.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve ordinance number 2015-02 from the petitioner Fred Lathers LLC. Any further discussion? The motion has been made and seconded. If not, I sense we're ready to vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say
Aye.
nay. Okay, there's 3 in favor and 1 opposed, so the ordinance revision passes.
On to 7, reports, well monitoring. Supervisor Fisher.
Okay, this is just a report. We'll do it quickly. I'm going to project a couple things up on the screen. Can we just douse the lights maybe on this side of the room? It might appear a bit better. We did the first round or first battery of well monitoring tests were done by Guthrie and Fry. Those were done back, I believe it was the 27th of March or thereabouts. There is a spreadsheet which is actually goes back to the onset of the monitoring activities. There are, I think, 25 or 26 private wells that are being monitored. Go back just one quick slide, even if you would. That's just a, well, there we can go to there. There's a graphic, one slide forward with the red dots on it, which shows the locations of the private wells that are being monitored. There are a couple of people who were originally in the program who have opted out. All of that information, I'm not going to go through it in detail, but you can see the static water level in those wells as of this monitor reading. The slide that's in the upper right-hand corner, which is now the larger image there, and this had been presented, I think, last June. It's a simple graphic put together. You can see that this monitoring began in 2008. You can see the number of tests that were done in each of those years, a bit sporadic. There was no testing done in 2011 and the beginning of 2012. That's been resumed, so you can see the intervals and times in which the testing was done. You can go to the next slide quickly, please. Some of that may be a bit difficult to read, but you've got paper copies in front of the board members. It's simply a summary of money that was allocated for this program and money that was spent. Runs on through the years. If you go to the last line on that, for this year, we have $5,000 budgeted for that activity, and the cost of doing that first round was $1,000. Next slide. And that simply is presented in a little bit different manner. It shows you beginning in 2009 how much money, and I see there's a typo on that. We have 2014 in there twice. That should be 2015 on the last entry, but it shows you that we have budgeted as a town board over that approximate 7-year period in excess of $73,000, and we have expended approximately $10,000 on that activity. I believe that is the last slide. Any questions? Not looking for any action or anything on this tonight, but any comments or questions about that activity that goes forward?
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no objections, I'd like to take the next agenda item out of order and go to 9C, jurisdictional transfer of Sunset Drive, as we have Two engineers from the city of Waukesha have been patiently waiting for us back there. Seeing no objection, we'll move on to 9C, jurisdictional transfer of Sunset Drive. Mr. Day, you want to come on up and give us your side of this? Or actually, I'd like to start with Supervisor Durr, probably. Thank you. You can stay.
Starting with 9C in your packet, if you would flip about 10 pages. Just 1 second, I'll point it out for you. I had intended it to be the first page and apparently made that error. It's an overall, this is the page that I'm trying to get to. It's an overall view of what the area will look like when and if it's fully developed. So that kind of really helps you understand where this area is going and the impact that it's going to have to the area. And how it's going to impact primarily our residents on Sunset View. So I met with Engineer Day and several members of his staff a couple of days before our last town board meeting, and it was after the time of the posting of our packet, so we tabled it until today. And they were very helpful in laying out some details about the impact of this plan. The last time we met, a couple of residents from Sunset View approached me and met with me several times over the next couple of weeks and expressed their concerns about the design and the traffic patterns and such of the impact of the Meijer store and the road improvements. And that's what I met with Engineer Day and his staff on, and they were very, very helpful. So if you go back to the beginning and go to the the third page.
Supervisor Durr, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. It would be appropriate to remove this item from the table. Since
Well,
you
I
were
did it
correct.
to this date certain, though.
It still needs to be done.
So be it.
Is there a
I'll move
motion?
to remove it from the table.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, continue, please.
So going to the first kind of schematic that looks like this. The primary concern of the people that approached me who live on what would be the southeast corner of Sunset View and Sunset Drive was their ability to exit Sunset View, primarily making a left-hand turn to go west onto Sunset Drive, and the queuing that would occur for the cars that would be turning left from Sunset Drive into Meijer. They were under the understanding from some earlier plans that the entrance to the Meijer facility was going to be much closer to the property line of the Meijer facility. And as I met with Engineer Day and his staff and looked at what is essentially the final plans, which is what you're looking at here, that is not the case. In fact, between the property line and the entrance to the Meijer facility, there's a stormwater retention pond, which substantially increases that queuing area for cars turning left. So that alleviated that fear of those residences. I met with them several times, and I think we pretty much have that ironed out. The next page in your packet is just kind of a different or more expanded view of that same area. Then we get into a couple of the traffic counts. I just wanted to cover kind of what each one of these is. So this is the traffic studies that were done by Traffic Analysis and Design that was commissioned by the city. So this was done in 2013. So the first page of what you're looking at is what the actual traffic was by physical count at that time. And if you look at each of the numbers, they each kind of have a designation by the legend down in the lower right-hand corner. So for instance, if you look at the corner of Tenney Avenue and Sunset Drive, by actual count on a weekday AM between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., there's 110 cars that turn right from Sunset Drive onto Tenney Avenue. And then there's an additional, in that same time frame, there's an additional 270 cars that continue through that intersection straight. And then there's 5 cars that turned left during that time period on Tenney Avenue into what would essentially, left onto Tenney Avenue. And then the numbers indicated inside the parenthesis, those are the weekday PM counts. So that's defined by the hours of 4:45 to 5:45. And then finally, what's considered the weekend peak time, which is Saturday from 11:30 to 12:30. So those designations are consistent throughout the various traffic studies. And the first page that you're looking at was actual count from 2013. The next page of what you're looking at is, it says opening year 2014 with Meyer. That's opening year of whenever Myers opens. So Myers isn't going to open until 2016. So that's what this would reflect. So now you're getting into the, to the art and the science of estimating traffic patterns. So we're no longer operating on actual counts, but what traffic engineers know from, other like developments. So you can see that in year number 1 or opening year of Meyer, the increased traffic at the various times, and you also have the addition of the Meyer access that is just a slight tad to the east of Tenney Avenue. And you can see how those counts increase, where you have 440 cars going west on Sunset, where you only had 270 previously. So that's the year that Meyer opens. The next one is a forecast of year 2024 if no development would take place. They do this so that they have good comparisons between, no development and development. We all know that that development is happening. So the more pertinent one is where we wind up on the last page here, or the second last page of the traffic studies, which is 2024 with a full build. So that's the full build with Meyer and the subdivision and all of those different things. So what I'm getting to here is, after I met with the gentleman from the city, it really came to my conclusion that it's critical that one way or the other, the town portion of Sunset Drive get improved. And there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. What the city is proposing is that we give them jurisdictional control over our portion of Sunset Drive, and then they incorporate that into the overall plan that they're developing, and essentially it's paid for by whatever arrangement the city has with their budget and Meyer. The other alternative is that we don't transfer jurisdictional agreement, and that's certainly an alternative, and that we retain that jurisdiction over Sunset. So then you ask yourself, well, if we retain, so those are our two options here tonight, either to transfer it or to not transfer it. But then you have to ask yourself the question, well, what do we do if we choose not to transfer it? And the way I see it is we have 3 different options if we take that approach. Number 1, we can look to improve that small portion of Sunset Drive that we retain control over, and we can look to work out an agreement with Meyer to pay for that. I think that would be difficult for us to do, number 1, this late in the game, and number 2, with such a small portion of the road, that Meyer would probably be less interested in developing. Another alternative is we could develop the road at our own cost. I mean, it would be our road, and we could do pretty much whatever we wanted. I don't know that the town budget over the next year or 2 would support that option. And the third alternative, which is always to do nothing. I think do nothing is really not an attractive alternative, and the reason for that is you would be having 4 lanes to 2 lanes to 4 lanes. And the primary concern of the people being on Sunset View and their ability to turn left to go west on Sunset would only be exasperated. Because when you take 2 lanes and go down to 2 and then back to 4, you know, all of those cars that were in 2 lanes are gonna be funneled into just 1 lane, and there'll be more backed up, as opposed to cars passing that area side by side or in a staggered format, when you can handle much more significant volume. So that's what I learned at the meeting. We met for a substantial amount of time, and I do appreciate the engineers who took their time. They really came well represented. Not only was Engineer Day there, but I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. But Mike was there. He's their traffic engineer. He was very helpful, but they came armed with their stormwater people, and they made themselves available to any of the residents that of ours that had concerns. I referred you to a couple of people. I don't know if they ever got a hold of you, but I certainly appreciated your time. So that's how I size up and summarize the meeting that the chairman and I had. And my recommendation would be, and I'll put the motion on the table, that we approve the jurisdictional transfer for the portion of Sunset.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, there was some concerns brought up at some of the past meetings about water and septic issues with this construction, and it was, I thought, brought up that we were gonna check to see if there was gonna be any compensation for those residents being in that area. Has any of that been brought up, or?
I approached it in the meeting with the engineers, and quite frankly, the message back was that they had little to no interest in doing that.
I guess I'd just like to offer a comment on that, or a concern, and it may be a little bit tangential to the issue of the jurisdictional transfer of the road, but I think it does have an impact on traffic patterns, hard surfacing, organization of this. Looking at the drawing, and there is proposed to be it's a relative term, but I'll call it a large, apparently wet detention pond on the northeast corner of the Meyer property, if I read the drawings correctly. Some of the residents expressed concern. I think it's a valid concern. I don't know the details, but they claim they have shallow wells. Again, that's a relative term as well in the area. Some of them even mentioned the word artesian wells. I don't know if that's true or not, but shallow wells. I think there is, at least intuitively, a concern for chloride, increased levels of chloride in those private wells. I'm assuming that this wet detention pond will be taking runoff from hard surfaces from parking lot areas at the store. I don't know whether roof water goes into it, but parking lot areas. Has there been any thought or discussion of the impact that that might have with increasing chloride levels in shallow wells on Sunset View that would be in immediate proximity and east of that detention facility?
I can address that. The standard design for the wet pond does include a clay liner, so it is not like a bioretention facility that would absorb, the water into the ground. It is clay lined.
Okay. Is then ultimately, is that water, this is detention, but a wet detention pond, is that then going to the east down the swale, or where does the water go?
In general, the flow is get my direction straight here, would be from the kind of the northeast corner of Meyer, and then diagonally southwest down.
Where does the water, where does the water that goes into the detention pond then with the clay liner is not infiltrate into the ground? Where does the water disperse to?
I'd have to, I don't have the plan, the Meyer plan, but to check that for sure. But the outlet would be in that southwesterly direction.
Ultimately, Engineer Day, does it flow into the city pond all the way on the southwest corner of the entire development? Is that the ultimate?
No, this pond would be separate. It would ultimately flow to, if you see the Tenney Avenue extension to Highway 59, there is a navigable waterway in that area. I believe that's tributary to Pebble Brook, and that would be the location for the Meyer site. The pond off of Big Bend actually would flow westerly through the culverts under East Avenue to West Avenue and beyond in that direction. So they actually are discharging in different directions.
Thank you. Further questions for either Supervisor Durr or Engineer Day?
The only concern I've got is the wells on the property in the town there with that retention pond. Granted, it's clay, but what happens when Myers goes in there and a year from now their wells go bad? What do we do then?
Well, I think those are two, I think we're talking about two mutually exclusive issues. Myers is getting built, and they're building a retention pond.
Right.
We're talking about what's going to happen to traffic flow on Sunset.
But we're also talking about, the city has negotiated before in circumstances where we did something that they needed to do, and they gave at least, like now, and I know that's coming up later, but with the pipeline on Broadway, they're willing to give the people right on the pipeline water. With that few of houses in there, I don't know why there wouldn't be a way that they could get city water and sewer if their wells go bad. I understand, I know Myers is going in. We have no control of that because it's a city.
And my response to that would be that, and this wasn't said to me, but it was certainly the underlying theme, is that we don't need to. I mean, and when you think about the negotiating ploy, this is somewhat different than the Broadway issue that we'll discuss a little later in the meeting, because the city in the Broadway issue is looking for something from us. They're looking approval to be in our right of way. In this case, there is nothing that the city needs from us. And it ties back for me to the issue of we have two alternatives tonight, either to approve or to not approve. And if we choose to not approve, to try to negotiate for sewer and water, the city will say, no, don't approve it, that's fine. Now go fix Sunset on your own nickel. And I think it puts us not in a position that we're in on Broadway.
Back when this first started, we had three options, and one was, if I recall, one was to keep it town, because I hate giving another part of a road up that the town has, because we're losing enough already. But there was a third option I recall, that we could keep the road and have Myers develop it, and then we would maintain it just like we do sections of Sunset West farther.
And then
that's no longer available?
It is. That's the one of the three options that I addressed when I spoke of if we choose not to transfer this jurisdiction. Should we choose not to transfer the jurisdiction, the way I see it is we have three options. We can either fund the improvements on our own, we can do nothing, or we could try to negotiate with the developer / Meyer, which would be, I believe, what you're speaking of the developer's agreement. Right. I mean, we can do that if that's the direction of the board. We can choose that option. I just don't think it's our strongest option.
The other thing that I'd throw at that is, why would we want to, if the road's going to get improved, why would we want to maintain it into perpetuity?
To keep our town as much as possible. Because we've lost enough, we've lost that 20 acres where Myers is going. So I hate to give up any more than we have to.
We're not giving up land. Land isn't being annexed. It's jurisdiction of the road.
But that's still town land, is it not?
It's not being, no, it's not. The underlying property on a roadway does not belong to a municipality. It belongs to the adjoining property owners. And the land, if that road was ever abandoned, the land reverts back to the adjoining property owner. All it is jurisdiction through rights of way.
Okay, so then if we're giving this road to the city, they're gonna build it, or Myers, or a combination of, and it's not city property?
We're not giving a road to the city. We're authorizing them, we're transferring jurisdiction so that they can build the road and maintain it at their cost, not ours.
But it doesn't remain ours.
It's not ours now.
Well,
We
if
don't-
it's
we
not
don't own-
ours, why are we giving up, or why are we voting to give up jurisdiction or not give up jurisdiction?
We have jurisdiction over roadways. We don't own them.
And then finally, just to address your last concern of the developer's agreement, I just don't know with that small piece of road that we would be in a position of strength to get the improvements that we would need from the developer.
The only thing I could think of is with Myers, they're not gonna wanna restrict the traffic in that area either. Cause if that happens, that's gonna hurt their business. I would think. If you're going from a 4-lane to a 2-lane to a 4-lane, people, if it starts bottlenecking, are not gonna go there. So we have some leverage, I think.
But I don't see how the leverage would help us on the well situation. Myers isn't gonna authorize that if their wells have an issue that they're gonna pay for it.
No, correct.
So all we're saying is that we should keep it as a town, try and negotiate with Myers to have them pay for it, and yet we're still in the same situation with what the concern is with the wells. I don't see that as a viable option at all.
Moreover, we're gonna be eating some of the cost of the repairs. Right now, the city is participating with Myers and the developer at a split of about 70-30. Is that accurate? And that 30% would then revert to the town of Waukesha. And we still have to maintain it into perpetuity.
And there's gonna be planner fees and engineer fees. And attorney fees.
Mr. Janelli is smiling when he heard attorneys or engineers' fees.
It would be an expensive alternative, no matter how we slice it up.
I mean, in an ideal situation, it'd be great if the city said, hey, if something happens to their wells, we'll cover it. But as we saw, or we'll see in future item tonight, they're not willing to negotiate.
Supervisor Fisher?
Yeah, just a minute, kind of a personal privilege. I realize we've wandered maybe a bit stream from the real agenda item, but I'd like to respond to, because I think Supervisor Wolf has raised a legitimate issue or concern about the wells and the water. And this is not an official town position. I don't think it's necessarily anything we participate in, but if I were, and we did chat with a property owner, if I were one of those property owners, and what I would recommend to them, and maybe you even want to sit down and chat with them, but if I had a private well there with this big development going next door, I would invest a bit of money in having my well tested for static water level, and I would do some essential testing for contaminants, including chloride levels and so forth. I would encourage all of those people in that area. They could go together, probably and get a better price for it, but I would establish a benchmark. In some regards, that's not unlike what we just looked at with the Lathers property and the monitoring of those wells. I would do that as a matter of self-interest and self-protection. I would do that, and I think we ought to encourage those residents to do that. I'm not advocating for the town to get involved in this instance in doing that or bearing the expense for that, but I certainly think that would be a prudent thing for those property owners to do.
Agreed. Anything further? We've got a motion and a second on the table. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, please.
Well, first, thank you for your consideration and moving us forward. But I did want to mention, we did stake, there are wooden lath on the property, and it's primarily from Sunset View westerly in that area. But there are 3 lath there that identify kind of the back of the proposed curb. So as you can consider the 4-lane extending, we've got some markers there to give you a better feeling for it, and it's not that significant when you actually look at it. You know, there's some up on the shoulder and areas, so that's what those wooden lath are, if you go by.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving backwards to 8B, relating to Deputy Clerk Treasurer. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to move forward with the new deputy clerk treasurer at the payments discussed in closed session.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to C, 2015-2016 operator's license. If there's no objection, I think we can take these all at once. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the operator's license as stated on the agenda, item 8C.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to D, Darlene Rivera requesting extension for non-compliant property at West 228 South 1517 Antioch Street. Is Ms. Rivera here with us? Hi, come on up. This is in regards to a non-compliant issue that was issued by independent inspections back on March 25th. Number of items that are outside of our ordinances. And Mrs. Rivera is asking for some additional time to get a contractor in there and repair it. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Have you contracted with somebody that?
Not yet. I've got bids, and the one shed, the sheds that were on the side, I've already taken care of that. I knocked those down, so that's been done. But I got bids on the garage because this is how I bought the property. Whoever owned it before me, gentleman owned it before me, I turned the garage into bedrooms, and when I purchased the property, that's how it was. So now that I'm moving into it, I got some bids for $15,000 and $16,000, and I just don't have that kind of money right now, and I'm just asking for an extension to give me time to get money, and so I can do some of the work myself, and also, you know, have some of it worked on. But okay, I just don't have the money right now to take care of all this, because I'm actually just haven't even lived there not 2 months now. So
How much time are you looking for, Ms. Rivera?
I need probably, I'm asking for about 4 to 6 months to get everything done.
So your intention is to put the garage back to a garage?
Yes, sir. When I bought the property, it was already like that. It had been inspected, so I did not know that it was not up to code or anything. Because when all my paperwork went through, nothing was ever talked about at that time, and it's been like that for like 10 years. So I just need time to, because the gentleman that was there, he passed away. So I guess he didn't get any permits or anything. He just went and did the work.
everything else on this complaint is done but the garage, putting the garage back?
No, there was three things, the soffits,
Oh, right.
there were two sheds on the side of the house that were right up next to the house, and the garage. The two sheds I did knock down. I've already taken care of that. And, but I have not fixed the garage or the soffits because I just don't have the money right now. Like I said, I just moved in there 2 months ago, so, and I just recently retired, so my income has gone down. So I just need some time to get some money to take care of it. I will probably do some of the work myself and have my son do some. My son is in construction, so he came over to look at it to see what, he could do that part of the work for me also to cut down the cost, but it is still going to be very costly because all of the soffits have to be replaced. He came and looked at them, and all of them have to be replaced.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I have every intention to do the work. I just need time to get up the money. I mean, that's all I'm asking for.
I'll make a motion to extend her time 6 months
Thank you.
to, you're gonna take the garage that used to be and make it back to a garage.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
That's November 15th. You feel you can get this done by November 15th?
I hope so. Will do my best to get it done. As like I said, a lot of work I have to do myself because I don't have the money to pay a contractor.
Well, but I think it's asking in the non-compliance report that you just need to apply for a permit for the major work, and then you've got 2 years.
Just for the record, I'll second Supervisor Wolf's motion.
Well, the original letter I got said I have 30 days, and that was impossible for me to do all this in 30 days.
That's correct, but they're also asking for you to pull a permit so that you,
Right.
so that you get into the process of it.
I can, but I didn't get a permit because I wasn't sure if I get the permit, how much time I had with the permit.
The permit is
So-
valid for 2 years.
So, yeah, and I just found that out from Martin,
Mhm.
and so I needed to come get it, but I guess he's here Mondays, Wednesdays.
Mhm.
So I'll be coming on Monday to pay for a permit,
Okay.
now that I know it's good for 2 years.
Okay.
I just didn't know how long it was good for.
So those are the 3 things, is apply for a permit, which then you have 2 years to complete it.
So once I apply for a permit, I do have 2 years.
That's to remodel the house to provide the 400 square foot required garage.
Let's clarify that, please.
Yeah, that's not
You
the way
have-
I read this.
You have, the permit is valid for 2 years, but the board has granted an extension until November 15th.
To get all the work done by November 15th.
Correct.
But I don't think that's what Supervisor Radke is saying. I think
No.
I understand Supervisor Radke to be sending a message that she needs to apply for the permit in the next 6 months, but then she's got 2 years to get the work done, and that's not how I read this.
Permit's valid for 2 years from the date of issuance. Now, there has to be progress that's made. It doesn't have to be completed.
We're saying that it has to be completed. The permit is good, but those are 2 mutually exclusive issues. The permit being good for 2 years, and the board saying that the house is going to come into compliance by November 15th. Those are 2 separate issues. Permit might be good, but we're not allowing it to go that far, at least at this point.
I mean, here's the issue to me. I mean, our ordinance calls for code compliances to be corrected within 30 days. Our policy allows us to extend that.
Correct.
So you want to extend that for 2 years and 6 months? I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing.
Which is not what our current motion is.
Correct. I'm just reading what's in the letter here that says, apply for a permit by April 27th, and then remodel the house to provide the 400 square feet required garage.
Let me
The
pose
permits-
this. I'm sorry, finish.
The permit's valid for 2 years from the date of issuance. Call for all required inspections.
let me pose this to you. So the way I understand that is she pulls a permit, on June 1st. And she rectifies all of our concerns by the date proposed by Supervisor Wolf, November 15th. The permit is still good for another 18 months. So if she wants to do some additional remodeling in 2016, she wouldn't have to come and get a new permit. That permit is still good. Once you pull a permit, it's good for 2 years.
Within reason.
Within some acceptance, but that's how I'm,
Is the permit only good for that, or if I do other things, the permit is good for other improvements also?
No, the permit is going to be for this specific issue. Okay, we've got a motion, a second on the table. Anything else? Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
So the motion is to complete the work by November 14th,
That's correct.
15th. Give it the 15th. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to E, release the holdback money for snow plowing. We retain 5% of the monthly bills from the snow and ice contractor, Wolf Paving, in this case, and to make sure that any damage to mailboxes, shoulders, lawns, and so forth have been taken care of. As of this time, Jerry has looked at all of the complaints that we received and is satisfied that all of that work has been done.
I'll make a motion to release the holdback for snow plowing to Wolf Paving.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to F, paving of the final lift of asphalt for Moyer Way. The final lift of asphalt shall be placed on all public streets after at least one winter season, but not later than September 30, 2013, unless extended by the town board. That's what the developers agreement for Moyer Way said. We're far past that, obviously. No houses have been constructed there. Typically, we look to have at least 60% of the houses constructed before we put the final lift of asphalt on. In this case, the problem may be that we let this go too long. The first course of asphalt is going to end up getting destroyed, and final course is going to be of no use to us. And I'll let Engineer Janelli weigh in on that also, please.
You're exactly right. This is a situation of darned if you do, darned if you don't. Currently, the binder course was put down, I believe, in 2012?
11, I think.
11, 12. As per usual, developers agreements, we've made reductions in the letter of credit. Typically how that works is we reduce that value of the letter of credit by the amount of work installed. The developer's agreement language is, as you see there, the final lift of asphalt shall be placed on all public streets after at least one winter season, but not later than September 30th, 2013. We've not gotten a extension request from the developers. And obviously without houses being built, a good portion of what we would want to see happen on those roads hasn't happened yet. So from a loading perspective, we try to put the risk on the developer so that if the roads do fall apart during construction of some of the homes, that gets repaired as part of the project, so that the town gets a nice brand new road at the end. The unfortunate part here is that if we wait too long and the road falls apart, we don't have anything to grab onto except a letter of credit, which is probably a little short for making that kind of repair. So we have two choices. One is to grant an extension, which in talking with Mr. Macy, he's somewhat against that because you're kind of opening yourself up if the developer walks and leaves. You have really no recourse to sue him, and he believes that by making the extension, you're kind of taking that risk that he'll fix it, and if he doesn't, then we're kind of on the hook for it. So he is recommending, he would recommend that we pave the road and be done with it. And I guess I can't disagree. The developers have made a request to pave it, so they would rather see it paved and be done with it. The obvious problems with that are that any future home construction within the subdivision is going to beat up our brand new road. But I'm not sure we have a whole lot of choice in the matter.
The other side of that is the longer we let the binder course sit, the worse shape it's going to get into. The letter of credit, again, is not going to be sufficient to cover repairing the binder course and a final lift. And we're probably in much better shape having the final lift on there and not the binder course destroyed.
I would agree with that in the sense that our roads are designed with all of that being in place and accepting loads. And traditionally we've, as I said before, try to leave that surface course off because once we put that down, it looks really nice and it's done and everything's good. But in this case, putting it down may actually help protect the road and protect the binder course.
Question, does it become a town road once that final lift is on, or does it still stay the property of the developer?
It becomes, we have the, once the surface course goes down, we accept the road, and then a 1-year warranty period starts.
Okay, so if nothing is built up in a year, it becomes our road, it gets destroyed in the construction, and it's on the cost of the town.
That's correct.
Okay, we have no recourse to make him patch his binder to have that hold up until it's 3/4 done?
We do up to a point. Right now there's, I want to say $50,000 in the letter of credit, which would cover the surface course and some contingency. So if we let this go on, we have the distinct probability that the binder is going to fail over time and will end up being, you know, pretty much shot and have to be replaced entirely. Patching the binder, you can do that up to a certain point, but at some point, you know, making patches in a road becomes like Swiss cheese, so then you have patches on top of patches, and that's no good for your surface course then.
So then if we put the top coat on, does he get his bond back then?
We would reduce the letter of credit to the contingency value for that 1-year warranty period. So right now, let's say I'm just talking in round numbers to make it simple, it's $50,000, and let's say the cost of the surface course is $40,000. We would reduce the letter of credit by $40,000 and keep $10,000 for 1 year.
Okay, so then if the asphalt gets damaged, then we have nothing left to except the $10,000.
Other than the developer's agreement, which we could perhaps sue him over.
But if we're worried about not extending the binder course, or not giving him an extension to not put the final lift on, and we're afraid he's going to walk from that, why won't he walk from the final?
Well, at least with the letter of credit we have in place right now, we have more than enough money to put the surface course on. We have enough money and then some to do that.
Okay, but you're saying by time you would put that on the way it's supposed to be with 3/4 of it done, the binder's going to be shot, most likely.
If we waited, that's what'll happen. If we wait, the binder course will fall apart slowly. We can approach them to make repairs, but eventually the binder course will be, you know, bad enough that we'd have to replace it all. So I guess that's a risk that, you know, we as the town either need to weigh or decide to take. traditionally what has happened in the past and with slow sales, and Mr. Bellman's up next, and he's kind of a perfect case for that. He's asked for us to make those extensions. And in those cases, he's requesting us to do that. And that's fine. He's willing to take the risk that the binder's gonna fall apart and he's gonna replace it.
Right.
All good with that. We have some recourse if he chooses to walk away. We can sue him and say, well, you asked to do this and you knew those were the risks. On Moyer Way, their perspective, they're not asking us to do that. They're not asking for an extension. So at some point, we're kind of trying to weigh two bad options.
Question, just, and then a comment. Our standard town specification, the binder course and surface course are how thick respectively?
2.5 inches on the binder, 1.5 inches on the surface.
Okay, 4-inch total. And I think I'm correct, assuming we proceed to do this then warranty or not, or unless there's different language in the developer's agreement, it would be ours then to plow snow next season if it gets paved this season. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. I mean, in this instance, I think the prudent thing to do is to proceed and get it done.
Is that a motion?
It is. My motion is to proceed and allow the developer to proceed with the final lift of asphalt from Moyer Way.
Is there a second? We'll move on. G, paving of the final lift of Cedar Hills. Engineer Janelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in December, we received a letter of credit reduction request from Mr. Bellman regarding Rolling Oaks 2, phases 1 and 2. He has completed phase 1. Phase 2 is basically done with the exception of the surface course of asphalt. We have combined the letter of credit at his request. At this point, the letter of credit was in the amount of $390,000 and change, as you can see in my first paragraph there. The developer is requesting that the value of the letter of credit associated with phase 1 be reduced to $37,000 and change. We find that that request is acceptable and that all the improvements within phase 1 have been completed, and we recommend that the town accept those improvements and that the 1-year warranty period has begun already. With regard to phase 2, they've made a request that we didn't find acceptable for various reasons. We recommend that the value associated with phase 2 be established at $60,000 to cover not only the installation of the surface course of asphalt, but also anticipated construction review, administration, punch list work, any repairs, etc. So we recommend that the combined letters of credit for both phases 1 and 2 be set at $97,153.72.
That's excellent, but we were on paving the final lift of Cedar Hills.
Oh, well, we can talk about that too.
Two, for the minutes, would you mind correcting? It's actually Cider Hills.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cider Hills. We have, in the past, granted, I think a few, actually,
Correct.
extensions to putting on the surface course because of slow sales. Currently, we have, I think, how many lots are in that subdivision? 22?
There was 20 lots total, and currently there would be, right now there's 6 that would be loft. So that we have basically about 70% that'll be built on. We actually just sold one this week, and we just permitted one this week, and should have a final occupancy on another one this week as well. So activity has picked up, and I think we're getting to that point where we're, past that threshold. So we definitely would be interested in, paving the site. I would prefer to do it this fall, just because then we can get the construction on these 2, the backfills and everything, get the big equipment out of there, which would help reduce the load. and then, finish it off.
I think that's appropriate, given the circumstances. We've got about 70% build out in the subdivision. That's generally when we would want to see the surface course go on.
Thank you. Is there a motion on paving on the final lift of Cider Hills?
Also move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to H, reduction of the letter of credit. Does anybody want Chris to reiterate his
Repeat
previous?
my dissertation.
You were talking about reducing the letter of credit to 97,000. I missed the last 543.
$97,153.72, which is a combined letter for both phases.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we change the credit to $97,153.72.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, David.
On to 9, current business, discussion and possible action on the following: transient merchant license and criminal background check for Colin Giantasio, Klondike Distribution, 410 Sheridan Road, Racine. Clerk? I'm sorry, I have an old agenda. I, purchase of ambulance. You have in your packet a ambulance from, it is up on auction from the Dickeyville. Yeah. The vehicle has 27,000 miles on it, about 1,400 hours. I've spoke extensively with the company that operates it. The Dickeyville actually contracts out with an ambulance company. They're all volunteers. They purchase their own equipment. They're on a 6-year term for their ambulance, and this is simply being updated with a new vehicle. It will be a very good stopgap for our fire department. We can allocate larger funds towards one of the other vehicles that we need. The chief says we're in urgent need of a new tender. One of our tenders is 38 years old. And we also have issues with the ambulance. Two pretty critical, good night. Two pretty critical items: getting water to the fire and transporting folks that have taken ill.
Does he have any idea what this may go around, or I see it's an auction, but.
You obviously never know what the number is going to be. I do know what their minimum is. Their minimum is $30,000. I would anticipate it going substantially higher than that. These things, their new ambulance, which is a match to this one, they're spending $230,000 on.
Do you know, will this replace one? Will they take one of the other ones out of service then?
Yes.
Is there a dollar amount we're looking to approve tonight to bid on this, or is it an open number?
Well, definitely not an open number. As you're aware, we've tried to bid on quite a number of plow vehicles in the past and have come up short a number of times. I would say that we should and according to the fella that is the contact here that I've spoke with quite a number of times, he has had a great deal of interest in the vehicle. I would suggest that my suggestion is not less than $50,000.
And I would assume the chief is on board with this?
He is.
Has anybody looked at it, inspected it?
Not yet. The auction ends on Tuesday. We anticipate getting out there over the weekend. As a matter of fact, we were going to volunteer you for the trip. All in favor?
Make that motion.
I'm not a huge advocate of used equipment. However, if it's inspected and this being a specialized piece of equipment is a bit different, because you're right, a new one is cost prohibitive for us. But if it fits what the chief is looking for, I'm not opposed to it, but I do think we need to set a limit as to what that dollar amount is.
Agreed. What's your limit?
I think 50 is a little low, to be honest.
I would concur.
You know, and again, remember that there is a bidding buyer's fee that comes into play, so that can add to it significantly. And I hate to be handcuffed by a few $1,000s if that's what it comes down to, but I do think it's our responsibility to put a dollar amount to it. I don't know. I haven't seen any 2008s what the prices have gone for, so I'm a little at a loss, and I would look for your judgment as to what you think it'll go for.
I said not less than 50. I think it's probably going to be substantially more than that, just based on what we've seen other equipment sell at. Recently, the 2004 patrol truck that was up in Saukville, I think, touched 70 grand.
Yeah, but those are two different animals.
Two different animals. I understand, but my point is that is not as inexpensive. That is not as expensive as this vehicle is. These are 230 grand. That's a new $125,000 patrol truck. Anybody have any numbers in mind?
Yes.
And your number is?
You just asked if I had a number in mind.
Yes. Would you care to share it?
No. I think we need to do a little more research. I think we need to count on that the people who are going to look at this, including the chief, including myself, and including the chairman, have good judgment and set the number high enough so that if they think it's worth it, they can get it. And if they think it's not worth it, that we trust them enough to let it go. I think that's been demonstrated in the past with the patrol truck. I think we have walked away from patrol trucks not just because we ran out of bidding power that was set by the board. We walked away from patrol trucks because we didn't think they were worth it anymore. So, I'd make a motion that we authorize up to $150,000 under those guidelines.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I don't think it would go that high, and I don't think I would be in favor of spending that much money, but
But then that's your discretion.
fair enough.
Yep.
Okay.
But I think we lost those, when we early on got in this process, we lost some good trucks because we ran out of bidding power.
I think you're accurate.
And we still don't have a patrol truck because then we had bidding power and we walked away from trucks because we didn't think they were worth it anymore. So we've run into both situations, and I think that we've shown prudence in walking away when we think they're getting too expensive. So I want to make sure that the bidding power is there if we think the person doing the bidding thinks that it's worth it.
Fair enough.
I don't disagree. I don't like to be handcuffed by a certain dollar amount if it's worth it, but this is coming out of the chief's budget. He needs to be comfortable with it
Absolutely.
as well.
Is your motion, Mike, for this vehicle or similar ambulances? Should we have the opportunity in the future? In the past, on patrol trucks,
Yeah,
it has been.
I'll make a motion to authorize up to $150,000 for an ambulance.
And I'll re-second.
Okay.
I guess I'll just offer a comment. I completely agree with everything that you say, that if we're going to do this, you need to have some latitude and have some confidence in the people doing it, that they're gonna use good judgment. That said, I gotta tell you, for a 7-year-old vehicle, that number is kind of rich for my blood. I mean, I'll probably support the motion, but wow, to have somebody say, hey, we turn these things in and turn them around and have the town of Waukesha, we've got the resourcefulness to buy a new vehicle, still been sitting there and saying $150,000. We can buy a new one for $230,000 that's 7 years old. That number's kind of rich for my blood.
And I think you make a good pitch, and if that's the way the board feels, I would certainly entertain your thoughts.
Well, and I guess I'll tell you,
I mean that sincerely.
No, and I mean it sincerely too. I'm inclined to support the motion. I do it with some reservation, inclined to support it because I trust in the judgment and want to give the authorization to do that, because the point you've made on patrol trucks in the past, we've kind of wasted our time.
Right.
But that said, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's almost getting close to unlimited.
Anything further?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know we don't want to be handcuffed with, if even 50,000, 100 I could see maybe. I'm not gonna not approve it because of it, but 150 for this age of truck hopefully doesn't happen, because that's an awful lot, I think.
Agreed.
And I think that gives some really good direction to probably the chairman who will be doing the bidding on the feeling of the board.
Well, and the chief as well. I mean, ultimately,
Right.
he's got to be comfortable with it, and if we say the limit is 100 and tomorrow you find one that's 125 that is for sale outside of an auction, it would be silly to have to come back and vote on it again.
Just two other things, just real quickly, and again, I will support the motion. I mean, this is an opportunity. This has got deadlines on it. This closes, what, at the 19th at 10 a.m., so we don't have opportunity to think or reconsider or table. I mean, it is at hand. Having had said that, I mean, a little bit of a view of coming attractions. Clerk Treasurer Nicholas and I have had a discussion, and what we're contemplating doing is having a meeting on June, help me with the date.
It was
June 11th.
June 4th.
June 4th to look at, I don't want to offer our agenda or not, but to look at capital plan, capital funding, capital expenditures. We are going to be facing, to be a responsible board, we're going to be facing decisions all about these type of things, and those are coming sooner rather than later. And I mean, the other thing, even, I think we're a little bit walking on the edge on this. I think we can get by it, but I mean, we actually, even in order to make a purchase, probably need to have a budget amendment to have the money to do it and stuff. I'm not going to cloud that with it tonight. I'll get the support of this, but I mean, we're going to be into this, however this comes to pass, we're going to be into this in big time within less than the next month. That's all I have to say.
Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to 9A, transient merchant license and criminal background check for Colin C. Gallantasio.
After a review of our Title IV transient merchants chapter for its, I believe the procedure set forth states that the clerk can first has to do the investigation, and I have found in the investigation and have refused to register this applicant due to material omissions or materially inaccurate statements.
Thank you. On to B, authorize the town clerk treasurer to move forward with the town hall painting and carping project. Madam Clerk, I don't seem to have the total here. It's 15,000 and
so I've got two possibilities here. If we're going to go with the carpet being removed without the asbestos person removing it, or they'll remove it, it would be $15,626.50. And if he finds that when he's removing the carpet, that the asbestos tiles start to come up, the maximum amount would be $3,400 to actually remove all the asbestos tiles at a cost of $18,376.50. We, in a past board meeting, you have already approved the authorization of the money to be moved from the capital funds into the general government capital work.
So I guess the big question is asbestos remediation or not? From my perspective, I would, it's perfectly legal to recover it again with carpet. If it's not coming up, if it's stable, I think that would be a fine alternative.
I'll make a motion to proceed with the town hall remodeling with the asbestos removal.
I'll second.
The reason that I say that is that I've considered exactly what you said and considered it closely. And my concern is that when we do this in 15 years, we won't, if it becomes friable, at some point it will. If it becomes friable, I think we're looking at substantial cost. If I can spend the $3,500 and get it out of the town's life for the future, I think it's time to spend the $3,500 and be done with it.
Fair enough. Are we, question, are we installing bulk carpeting or carpet tiles?
Carpet tiles.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And D, request to install water main in East Broadway right-of-way. You've all got a letter from Mayor of the City of Waukesha, and along with some supporting documentation regarding state statutes and case law regarding denying jurisdiction or denying access through our jurisdiction for the purposes of water and or sewer mains. Their position is that we cannot deny the access to our jurisdiction. Case law agrees with that, as does our council. The city has still agreed to offer water service to the adjacent property owners. His wording isn't quite what we would like. Supervisor Fisher, you had some better wording, I think, that you would have liked in a letter sent back to the city.
Well, yeah, I guess what I would be looking for in this, a written document that would basically preserve the opportunity or preserve the right in perpetuity forever for town property owners to connect to the city or municipal water system without the requirement of annexation. I think it's about that simple, and I think it should be for all property owners who have a property that, at a minimum, that abuts this water main extension.
Somewhere in my pile here I have an email from
The mayor?
the mayor. So is that what do you have this handy? Where he says,
I do.
and so you're looking for that in a more formal document? Is
No,
that
I think it's a little
sufficient,
bit, I think it's a little bit different than that. I mean, just running through that, this talks about, or my reading of this email communication talks to offering to provide service. It talks about requiring the property owners to pay for the lateral from the main to the property owner's line, lot line at the property owner's expense, requiring them to pay for that, and then saying the property owner responsible for installing the remainder of the lateral. Furthermore, each owner that desires service shall timely apply for the necessary permits to become a customer. I mean, my reading of this is that it contemplates that all those properties want to be connected to the municipal water service at this point in time. That's my reading of it, and that's not my intention or desire at all.
I agree, and I think it's something simpler that the property owners have the right to connect when and if they so choose to do so, and that they don't have to have a lateral put there right now.
And that they do not incur any expense at this point in time, but the opportunity to connect at any point in time in the future without a requirement of annexation of the city.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
Yep, it's all on paper.
Excellent. Is that a motion?
It is, and I think the agreement should be very specific before we sign it, very specific with regard to the properties involved. I think probably that should have tax key numbers are the best way to nail that down. It probably should even have, and I would think the city could put this together, I would think it ought to even have a diagram to go with it, and ought to have tax key numbers, so at some later date, we're not into deliberation discussion as to what properties were involved. And that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, E, second last, election equipment resolution. Clerk Nicholas.
We have in front of you a resolution that was put together by our attorney and has been approved by many of the municipalities in the county, asking the county to pay 100% of the portion of 100% of the election equipment costs. Now, the cost of the election equipment for the town of Waukesha is $20,249. The county is asking us to pay roughly $6,700 of that over a 3-year period of time. If the municipality does not go with this proposed election equipment from the county, the town would be required to pay for programming. And the cost of programming our machines are about $1,300 an election, and but we share that cost with the county, and I think that's getting lost in translating this cost for this resolution. The spring elections we share with the county costs as well as the school districts. So I've taken out we expect that our equipment we currently have will last us 10 years. The new equipment that the county is looking to have us purchase will last us about 10 years. So they'll both last us about 10 years. I've taken the cost of the expense of programming for the life of the machines at 10 years, and the cost to for us to keep our machines and program them would be $6,500 over that 10 years. The county is asking us to pay $6,700 for the new equipment. But what's interesting is the portion of the programming over that 10 years for the county is $19,500. So it would make sense for the county to go ahead and pay the 100% of the cost of this equipment, as it will benefit the county.
And that's what the resolution is asking, each one of the municipalities is getting together and asking for the county to pick up the tab on that.
So I understand that if we act affirmatively on this, I mean, what is the intention? And is Mr. Macy going up to Waukesha County with the tin cup and a bunch of resolutions? Is that where this is going, or what?
The resolutions are being sent to the county board members as well as the county executive. They've been flowing through for the last week now. And all board members are getting them, not just their specific. So Bill has been getting resolutions throughout the week now as the municipalities have been passing them. We're hoping that a resolution comes, a board member would like to bring that to their county board and ask for reconsideration of this quarter, or this 1/3 for cost to the municipalities.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2015 dash, whatever the number may be in sequence, known as a resolution to petition that Waukesha County pay the full cost of its election equipment update program, and I so move.
In a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bill, if you have any questions, please let me know. But if you could bring this to the board, we'd really appreciate it.
And I could talk with you afterwards. I know we're not in public right now, but the administration has shared their opinion on what's going on.
All right, we can talk. Lastly, 10, accounts payable. We have accounts payable in the amount of less the Rupert-Melke bill of $94,024.68. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we pay the bills in that amount.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And secondly, Rupert-Melke bill in the amount of $2,273.85.
Make a motion, we pay the Rupert-Melke bill in the amount of $2,273.85.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstains.
Aye.
Thank you. Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
8:59.
First I thought I heard something.